Trash. Trash is everywhere. It's unavoidable. You encounter some trash at least once every day, whether you want to or not. It's a basic fact of life that trash, in some way, shape, or form, exists. And boy, does it take a lot of forms. Today, we're going to be talking about the biggest piece of trash I have ever played, from a series I consider to be my favorite. Out of all the Ninja Gaiden games, this is what most consider to be unequivocal trash. The lowest, bottom of the barrel, forgotten garbage that somehow dragged itself to digital marketplaces in the great futuristic year of our Lord, 2025. The one that shall not be named. The one fans would rather not talk about, forget exists, or outright wish never came to be. And the game that killed the Ninja Gaiden franchise. No, I already talked about that one. Of course, we're talking about Yaiba, Ninja Gaiden Z. Well, here we are. After about 2 years, 4 videos, and about 14 cumulative hours of commentary, this is it. The final game in the Ninja Gaiden series. Yaiba, Ninja Gaiden Z, and I finally get to fucking talk about it. I'd first considered ducking this game and just ending this retrospective series at Ninja Gaiden 3, but taking into account people say that this isn't just worse than Ninja Gaiden 3, but straight up one of the worst games of all time, I had to give in to my curiosity. From the gameplay I saw, it didn't look like Ninja Gaiden, but certainly didn't look terrible either. With the little context I had from screenshots and the general consensus around the game, what I expected going in could have never prepared me for what I played. After all was said and done, I was just left wondering.
Alright. What happened? Like, what? Why is this Ninja Gaiden?
But, as usual, to get the full picture of how such a game came to be, we're gonna have to take a look at the peculiar circumstances surrounding this game's development, why it's so different from its predecessors, and most importantly, point our collective fingers and laugh at whoever was responsible. So, of course, our story picks up where it always does, with the long-established, peerless Japanese game studio Team Ninja in the year 2013. For those not caught up to speed, and for a refresher for returning viewers from the first 3 videos, the first 2 modern 3D Ninja Gaiden games were the creation of former Team Ninja CEO and main character of real life, Tomonobu Itagaki, a man whose dramatic character arc of wild success and dizzying climactic fall from grace I've covered in great detail in my Ninja Gaiden 2 video. The company, now without a CEO, quickly replaced Itagaki with young runner-up Yosuke Hayashi, who helmed the ship on Ninja Gaiden 3, the 3rd installment in Team Ninja's most popular franchise, despite his lack of experience compared to Itagaki, whose direction with the series struck a positive chord with audiences to the point that even a game like Ninja Gaiden 2, which was unpolished by Team Ninja standards, is still considered the best Ninja Gaiden game by many. To reiterate some key points from my Ninja Gaiden 3 video where I covered this more in depth, Hayashi and his team's delivery was not what most had expected, even the Razor's Edge re-release with polished mechanics and more content proving to not entirely be enough to sway audiences' minds away from the sentiment that the franchise is seemingly going off the deep end and that Team Ninja has lost their edge. Nonetheless, Team Ninja figured that a different approach was required for the next Ninja Gaiden project, and surprisingly, the one responsible for the next Ninja Gaiden game wouldn't strictly be just current CEO Yosuke Hayashi, but instead a different, well-established, influential Japanese game dev. This is where the man himself comes in. Former Capcom producer Keiji Inafune, well known for being the creator of Dead Rising, Lost Planet, having significant influence on the popularity and establishment of Mega Man, and most importantly, a somewhat controversial figure within the wider subculture of the Japanese gaming industry. This guy's name carries a lot of weight when it comes to where this industry was in the mid-2000s and where it is right now. But to set the stage, Inafune got his start at Capcom in 1987 as an illustrator working on the original Mega Man, gradually working his way up the company ladder throughout the years, becoming producer on the series in 1996, and eventually a senior corporate officer within the company 10 years later in 2006. The mid-2000s were a particularly rocky time for the Japanese gaming industry. With the rise in popularity of Western consoles and even more so Western IPs, the overall influence and hold Japan had on the international video game market was largely becoming a shadow of what it once was. Games like Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat, Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, etc. had largely stolen the spotlight, and during the transition between the 6th console generation and the 7th, the PS3 had proven notoriously difficult to develop games for, lending more credence towards the world's most powerful hardware, the Xbox 360, as well as the PC market. Due to these circumstances, a rising sentiment among game devs in Japan was that they were beginning to fall behind their Western counterparts, with worse sales and generally less attention surrounding the scene. Grim, considering the opposite happened to be the case no more than a few years earlier. A lot of producers and influential devs had their own individual input in the matter, but aside from a few outliers like, ironically enough, Itagaki of Team Ninja, who embraced the hardware of Western markets and developed numerous successful titles for the Xbox as well as its successor, most continued on the same, seeing that there was indeed an issue present within the scene, but due to the inherently different development/business practices between Japanese and Western devs, no real reason to break the mold and reach those Western audiences, much to the dismay of one such producer at Capcom, Keiji Inafune. Inafune had seen the stagnation of the industry approaching as far back as 2005, and had begun to take steps to slowly appeal more and more to Western audiences, starting with Capcom title Shadow of Rome in the same year to generally poor reception. Undeterred, Inafune continued on, scrapping a sequel Shadow of Rome and creating Dead Rising a year later, a game that did significantly better and managed to establish itself as a series, particularly within Western markets, something that seemed to validate Inafune's conviction and possibly bolden his resolve. This culminated in Inafune's infamous pessimistic anecdote following Tokyo Game Show 2009 that riled up fellow game devs, gamers, and weeaboos alike. Where following an underwhelming showcase, Inafune expressed his scathing disappointment towards the Japanese gaming industry, saying that within the context of video games and their future, Japan is over. We're done. Our industry is finished. A sentiment, while blunt and somewhat hyperbolic, was not entirely untrue. Things were not looking good for the industry at the time, especially with the current generation heavy hitters almost all being Western products. Japan's grasp on the global gaming market was quickly slipping away. Being in a position of strong importance within a long-standing, recognizable company like Capcom, Inafune had been working hard to have his company's games stand out and reach that market, with his influence now ingrained into Capcom's other IPs like Resident Evil and Bionic Commando, both of which had seen a significant stylistic shift come 2009 to something more Western adjacent. Even with the shift in market appeal, Inafune knew in order to fully revive the Japanese gaming market, more measures would have to be taken. So instead of just appealing to the West, Inafune straight up pushed for outsourcing development to Western devs in a bid to fully emulate what their gamers wanted. And what better way to do that than to just literally get devs from that market? The first notable instance of this was Capcom buying Blue Castle Games, who went on to develop Dead Rising 2, a slope that eventually led to the most well-known example of this endeavor, Capcom outsourcing Western company Ninja Theory to develop a reboot for their beloved Devil May Cry franchise. Something me and any fan of the series could tell you was a catastrophic move that nearly killed the series at the time.
Why did you kill my child?
I briefly touched on this radical shift in tone during this time in gaming in my last Ninja Gaiden video, but for full clarification, this guy Inafune is more or less the key figure for the weird push for Western appeal that pervaded this era in the Japanese gaming industry. Believing that Japan was far behind the market and that something had to change to keep up with the West. Just sticking to a winning formula wasn't working anymore. There's no originality or diversity anymore. The industry relies too much on sequels instead of original new ideas. Which is funny coming from the guy who helped make over 30 Mega Man games, but I digress. He ultimately felt that games were no longer profitable on just the Japanese market, which was true. Games were becoming more and more expensive to make, and the investment required to not just develop, but also promote video games was something Japan could not keep up with, and so cracking the Western market was the only way to save the industry in his home country. Many people criticized Inafune's continued takes on Japanese gaming essentially being dead, and pushing for Western appeal to resolve this, even going so far to compare himself to historical figure Sakamoto Ryoma, a 19th century samurai who tried to overthrow the feudal government in a bid to open the country up to Western trade, and was assassinated as a result. Inafune claimed that if this were feudal Japan, he'd be hunted down and killed too. Inafune would eventually leave Capcom due to not liking how the company works, in addition to general dissatisfaction with the business side resisting his efforts to open up to globalizing their products, claiming that they think developers are stupid and don't understand what makes money. His departure meant that he would have to pursue this ambition by himself, so the next few years involved Inafune pitching ideas to different publishers and companies under the basis of creating a game with wide global appeal. One such publisher was quite receptive to this idea, that being Koei Tecmo, parent company of Team Ninja, which isn't exactly too surprising considering 1. How Ninja Gaiden 3 turned out, and 2. Inafune expressing interest on possibly working on a Ninja Gaiden game due to being friends with Tomonobu Itagaki during the early 2000s, both in their heyday. Inafune was a producer on Onimusha at the time, and Itagaki had expressed that he really liked the game and Capcom had a good thing going. But the game he was currently making was way better, an interaction that stuck in Inafune's psyche for years, rent-free, coping with the thought that Ninja Gaiden, meaning the 2004 title, was born with at least a crumb of his influence as a result. In an ironic twist of fate, the tables had turned. And now Inafune was seemingly at the head of Team Ninja's current project, Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z, officially revealed sometime after Ninja Gaiden 3's release in 2012. The game was pitched as a revenge story, starring the eponymous protagonist, Yaiba Kamikaze, who fell in battle against no other than Ninja Gaiden babyface Ryu, Our Boy in Black, Hayabusa. A strange premise to be sure, but as more details were revealed about the game, fans began to realize that this was not going to be your average Ninja Gaiden game. Perhaps the most striking feature was the fact that Yaiba, as in the game, we'll refer to it by this from now on, was not in fact a game about fighting ninjas, like its predecessors. Oh no. This was a zombie game. A ninja zombie game. This is where all of this context for Inafune's past and gripes with the gaming industry all come into play, because not only was this game featuring zombies and ninjas in an effort to appeal to both Western and Japanese audiences, but was being developed by 3 separate studios. Japanese studio Team Ninja for directional purposes, American studio Spark Unlimited, whose entire pedigree is exclusively shooters, like the unequivocally dogshit Legendary for the PS3 and Lost Planet 3, a game which killed its own franchise. And last and least, the third developer involved was Inafune's own studio Concept, which he had formed following his departure from Capcom. Armed with influence, personnel, and development all sourced from the West, as well as his Japanese studios covering other aspects of production, Inafune had everything he needed to show the world that he can change the winds of fate for the Japanese gaming industry, and be the catalyst for change, and be the first to truly push in a new, collaborative direction. This was his chance to prove that the Japanese gaming industry, despite being by his own definitions dead, can truly recover and reclaim its former glory. In Inafune's own words, it's undead. Now, audiences and fans of the series were taken aback by Team Ninja's lackluster delivery on Ninja Gaiden 3. Though Razor's Edge helped to put a band-aid on the damage the game did to the franchise, what it really needed was a real knockout hit, something on the level of Ninja Gaiden 2 or even Ninja Gaiden Black to save the series from kicking the bucket for good. So when news of a new Ninja Gaiden title rolled around post Ninja Gaiden 3, fans had gained hope that all may not be lost for their beloved franchise. But as more and more info crept in from the shadows, some had begun to realize that we might truly just be steering right for the fucking iceberg for old Ninja Gaiden. Most of what was being revealed seemed to provoke a mixed reception from fans. gameplay that seems less Ninja Gaiden and more God of War, an art style that, while stylish and certainly inspired, was a big departure from Ninja Gaiden's typical look, and the most polarizing change being the protagonist. Yaiba Kamikaze was designed to be the antithesis to Ryu in every aspect of his being. He's a loud, arrogant, bloodthirsty psychotic maniac who takes utmost joy in violence and carnage, with his actual dialogue sounding like something out of a Newgrounds parody series than something a group of developers wrote, agreed was good, and cleared for the game.
Honor and death go together like hot sauce in my balls.
The game was shooting for a direction seemingly completely opposite from the usual Ninja Gaiden formula, even more so than Ninja Gaiden 3 ever dreamed of. With Yaiba Kamikaze mowing down hordes of zombies with his broken sword and mechanical extremities, fans, while not overly opposed to the drastic tonal shift due to it being a spin-off, were just left wondering, so why is this a Ninja Gaiden game again? Really the only thing that seemingly linked it to the subtitle attached to the name is the Dragon Ninja himself, and as a result, most fans were really just there to see how this rivalry was going to pan out. Though gradually, through more gameplay reveals and developer interviews, fans were beginning to warm up to the idea of a distinct take on the classic Ninja Gaiden formula. With a 2014 release date sealed, it was only a matter of time until they got their definitive answer on whether or not this game could possibly save the franchise, or even just delay the inevitable until Ninja Gaiden 4. After 2 delays, on March 18th, 2014, Ninja Gaiden fans got their answer. And I have terrible news. Yaiba released to near universal disappointment from longtime fans to newcomers alike, echoing sentiments from the previous title's release, no doubt reawakening some bad memories for those around for Ninja Gaiden 3. This game had received criticism on nearly every aspect of its design, maybe apart from its art style, which took liberal inspiration from Western comic artists and did well in creating a visual flavor that was honestly really captivating. But even then, the game was seemingly plagued with visual artifacts and overall unpolished that dragged down an otherwise visually stunning game. The humor and writing had been another subject of scrutiny, with the dialogue, especially from Yaiba Kamikaze himself, feeling less like an unserious goofy game and more like aggressively unfunny lowbrow humor, made even worse by the fact that it's pretty hard to ignore when it's forced down the player's throat at literally every given opportunity. From cutscenes, back-to-back combos between Yaiba and his mission control buddy Miss Monday, to really the devs feeling obligated to insert a funny quip every 30 seconds or the player might start actually enjoying the game. Maybe the greatest criticism this game received was, despite being called Ninja Gaiden, this game wasn't Ninja Gaiden, in any sense of the word. This gameplay wasn't Ninja Gaiden. The story and characters were hardly Ninja Gaiden. This protagonist isn't Ninja Gaiden, and the only thing anchoring it to those exalted 2 words was the Dragon Ninja himself, who received less screen time in this game than most had anticipated. Overall, Yaiba was shaping up to be one of the worst received games of its time, and it seemed like Inafune's vision for the future of the Japanese gaming industry was all but a burning train wreck at this point, and he just so happened to drag the Ninja Gaiden series into it as well. A series in the wrong place, at the wrong time. So I guess that brings us back to the reason we're here. Is it really that bad? You know, people said this about Ninja Gaiden 3. Hell, even about Ninja Gaiden 2. And even then I found redeeming qualities in both of those. Considering how much thought and effort I've put into giving these games a chance, I see no reason not to do the same for the pitch vanted black sheep of the franchise that's warranted the criticism of one of the worst games of all time. With a reputation like that, I just gotta see for myself. Now for the record, Yaiba is the shortest game out of the entire series, and due to there not really being much to talk about on its own merits, I'll additionally be treating this video as a sort of victory lap and the final conclusion on my thoughts on these games as a whole, meaning we'll be taking some looks back at the previous games through the context of Yaiba, which also means if you haven't seen the past videos in this retrospective series, you're gonna be a little lost. But there's still going to be plenty of discussion around the actual game at hand, so don't worry. Yaiba is a flawed mess of a video game for reasons bad enough to justify even making this video to begin with. But are there truly any redeeming factors underneath all that garbage? How bad did it get for this game to be the final nail in the coffin for Team Ninja's hack and slash classic? Why did they make this bitch Miss Monday so bad? For the final act in this 2-year Ninja Gaiden retrospective, we're about to fuck around and find out just what it takes to kill a franchise in Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z. Yaiba comes out swinging right off the bat with an intro cutscene showing us the long-awaited rivalry between our titular protagonist and the great benevolent sage of heaven, the celestial dragon ninja, the singular, most venerable and honored among heaven and earth, he who commands divine mists, he most florid and eloquent, he who... The scene doesn't really do much in the way of establishing any reason why these two are going at it, or really any substance beyond a well-choreographed, pre-rendered fight between Yaiba and Ryu. Honestly, this is the most love this guy's got in terms of cool cutscene shit since probably Ninja Gaiden 2. Hey, wait a second, that's my line! Ryu doesn't take kindly to hearing the same joke for the 4th time in a row, and ends their duel with one swift strike. And that's it. That's the intro. That's all we're working with. As per usual, we've got the title screen. Maybe the most creative one we've seen yet. It's got a lot of charm to it. Yaiba's mission roster constitutes a merciful 7 whole missions, which means that this will hopefully be the shortest out of this entire retrospective series. Despite typically going for hard, we're gonna go for normal mode, since I already tried it on my first run through, and it was nothing short of agony. That's enough. That is enough for me. Nigga, I'd delete the recording by this point. Also, Yaiba's got costumes you can switch through. None of which I even have unlocked, but they're mostly joke costumes, like a Mighty No. 9 crossover, because Inafune really wanted people to know about and support Mighty No. 9, as well as this skin, which I initially mistook for some kind of Deadpool reference or something, but was shocked to find that it's not, but instead a crossover skin with the Gothic Lolita Battle Bear cinematic masterpiece, Nui Guramazi. This only exists because these two IPs had zombies, and both released in 2014. Anyways, yeah, first mission. We get yet another cutscene segment, the first of many comic book inspired cinematics that piece together this game's riveting narrative. It's a nice style, and the still image slideshow type presentation is actually something I'm not entirely opposed to either. Yaiba's found himself in a metropolitan locale somewhere in Russia, where the nation's military forces are currently at odds with an unexplained zombie outbreak. That's the setup. Boom. There you go. Start killing shit. The actual beat-by-beat tutorial of Yaiba is something of a sensory overload, so we're gonna break it down step by step. Unlike past games, Yaiba has a more traditional style of introduction to mechanics, actual prompts that guide you through the motions. X is Yaiba's sword. It cuts down small to mid-sized groups pretty well. Y is his cybernetic arm. It hits things hard but lacks speed. B is Yaiba's flail, which unapologetically functions like the Blades of Chaos from God of War, good for crowd control. You can freely combo between the three at really any point, and it flows surprisingly well. Can't jump though. Yaiba's only means of evasion is the dash button, which was weirdly a deal breaker for a lot of people. When you're so used to jumping to gain better positioning in these games, it makes sense that it might seem off-putting. Moving on with the tutorial shit, each enemy type also gets introduced with a nice little title card.
Aren't you a miserable piece of shit? Get the fuck off of me!
I didn't alter this audio, by the way. Yaiba really sounds like this. We're told how the game's healing system works in the next room over. The execution system introduced in Ninja Gaiden 2 is still here, only this time it's strictly used as your source of healing, not too dissimilar from Doom's glory kills. With that out the way, this is basically Yaiba's entire core combat loop. Combo Yaiba's 3 weapons as you see fit, execute enemies to gain whatever health you lost back, repeat until forever. It's not a bad start so far. It's kind of fun just to tear up hordes of mindless zombies with such a flexible kit. But if this is the whole game, boy, we're gonna be in for a rough few hours. Yaiba's also got a fair number of collectibles, ranging from storytelling, health boost, resistance boosts, etc. Stuff to give you some incentive to explore, which aside from golden scarabs, hasn't been a strong point in the series since Ninja Gaiden Black and to a degree Ninja Gaiden 3, so it's nice to see some kind of return to letting the player explore a bit, even if it is so limited. Still not done with tutorials. Trust me, it's even more aggravating when you're playing it. We can yank and fling zombies on a whim and use them as weaponry, a mechanic not really utilized in combat, but more for environmental puzzles. Alright, why did this need a title card?
Who is possible? This is a Peter copter. Do you see the eyes?
I see the eyes.
Oh my god.
I see the
fuck?
fucking eyes.
I keep thinking he's talking about Wiles.
It's
It
staring
looks like
at me.
a fucked up dog. It's
It's
staring at me.
staring at me. A classic staple of Ninja Gaiden, the ubiquitous helicopter gunship boss fight. Seems like even after all this time, I cannot escape the inevitable. Thankfully, this is one of the easiest ever. Yaiba comes prepared to throw hands by just manhandling the fucking rockets and tossing them right back where they came from. We've come a long way from the first game's horrendous dogshit manual aiming to take down aerial enemies. No, I'm still mad at the chopper fight from Sigma. I will complain about this every day until I die. A good chunk of Yaiba's beat-by-beat level progression is divided up by these parkour sections that really just involve tapping B with an overly gratuitous window. Not getting insta-killed if you fuck this up is something I am going to shower this game with praise for, considering how much I still see this bullshit even today. So kudos to Spark for doing the bare minimum. These sections aren't all too bad. If anything, they're a cool interactive way of lending these levels some scale and exploration, even if we're being railroaded the whole time to the end. We get introduced to the first type of special zombie here, who's just kind of the regular ones with hyper armor and more attacks. One more parkour section and we're basically nearing the end of the level already, with another helicopter fight on this rooftop. Since this is more or less the same shit I talked about like 2 minutes ago, let's take a look at Yaiba's upgrade system. The UI's aesthetic is charming. This wouldn't look out of place in a late 2000s Flash game on Congregate or Newgrounds. Legit, you could tell me this was made by the Swain or Crinkles and I'd believe it without any hesitation. Anyways, it's an upgrade tree, a system Razor's Edge introduced that I was never a fan of. I ultimately preferred how Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2 handle progression through upgrading your weapons and finding scrolls. This system has honestly been my favorite in any action game. Never really liked the skill trees or unlocking individual moves at all. Upgrading weapons and unlocking a larger moveset always felt more organic and satisfying to me personally. Ultimately, it's a subjective thing, but skill trees have always felt like an obnoxious chore. Too bad Team Ninja really like skill trees going into their post-Itagaki era. The only thing that seemingly remains from Ninja Gaiden's classic progression is collecting consumable trinkets to increase your maximum health. Aside from that, there's no karma, no orbs, and no scrolls. Just skill points you gain through combat. It works. Functional mechanics. Can't really complain. Yaiba flings a zombie at this helicopter and we're already done with Mission 1, launching us into yet another cinematic. We're formally introduced to the other major characters we're forced at gunpoint to tolerate for the rest of the game.
That's when I met her boss, Del Gonzo. He was the head of Forge Industries. And also a huge dick. I guess that made him a dickhead.
Okay, you know what, that one got me. This guy is Del Gonzo. He brought Yaiba back to life to kill Ryu, and yeah, this whole cutscene breezes the fuck by, so we're gonna talk about him and the red-haired lady, Miss Monday, in the next mission for pacing purposes.
Just point me in Hayabusa's direction.
Forge Industries has a listening station across town, hidden below a lingerie store.
Lingerie store, huh? Can I pick you up anything?
Focus, Yaiba. The spy team there should have eyes and ears on Hayabusa's current location.
Moving along, we're at Mission 2. Right away, I'll just say that Mission 1 leads the player onto the idea that this game will be short. No. Every mission from here on out is at least 45 minutes to an hour, so more dog shit for me, I guess. We're introduced to yet another zombie variant right out of the gate here. You know, I like that there's more variety going on, and I get that this design probably felt unique at the time, but the only other thing less original than a generic zombie would probably be a fucking clown zombie, let's be honest. It's almost like this is the first thing they thought of when trying to branch away from the generic zombie chaff enemies, and just stuck with it. Benefit of the doubt, maybe it's just a product of its time. Nowadays, it feels like everything is inundated with clowns, and it just feels tiring. It the Clown, Killer Clowns, Slasher Clowns, Cloth Gowns, Clown Gods, Clown Pussy.
Disable my honk honk inhibitor.
Dude, funny joke.
Dude,
Porn
oh my
addiction.
God. The joke is we have a fucking problem. It's
The
called
joke-
pornography.
We have a fucking problem.
Right, and we have a problem.
This fight does also serve a double purpose. It introduces a key mechanic where Yaiba forcefully rips and tears a special undead apart to utilize their remains in combat. Just gonna say it now, by no means an original idea, but damn, this shit never gets old in any video game ever. The kill animations are quite satisfying and have a lot of Yaiba's signature aggression on full display, usually opposed to QTEs in my action games, but God of War did this well and Yaiba is no different. You don't always have to reinvent the goddamn wheel to make a good action game mechanic. Nonetheless, the nunchuckles are stupid powerful, and so is every special infected weapon, so things are looking pretty well balanced. Yaiba eventually reaches this neighborhood crosswalk, and for a moment, I'd just like to take a moment to really appreciate this game's art direction. People shit all over this game for a lot of good reasons, but one I find to be almost objectively incorrect would be the art style. Because god damn, this shit looks clean. Like, I get if the whole comic book look isn't up your alley, but you're lying if you think this little vista right here isn't something to be admired. From the framing of the chapel and graveyard, to the immaculate usage of vibrant colors contrasting against the dark foreground, to the burning violet dusk in the background. It just looks amazing. There's more views like this later on too, so this isn't just an exception. The whole scene sets a solid tone for not just the level that follows, but largely the rest of the game. Really, this whole graveyard is some good shit. Another fight with the clowns and a sizable crowd of... Oh, alright. This is where we unlock Yaiba's Bloodlust, his super ability, Spartan, Rage, Devil Trigger, Full Power, Witch Time, God Hand, Ripper Mode, whatever you want to call it. It's a generic get out of jail free card, just invulnerability and increased damage, but I guess it suits Yaiba well. Would have preferred, like, I don't know, a self-destruct move or something, since he's a cyborg with such a system already installed, as per established in a previous cutscene. I guess Nier Automata had that and it wasn't very useful at all, aside from blasting all of 2B's clothes off and seeing her without her skirt. Yeah, maybe on second thought I'm not trying to see Yaiba naked, so let's forget about that idea. I think it's about time we hit the skill tree again, the star of the show here being the execution chain ability. It's a neat little mechanic that actually requires a bit of reaction time to fully utilize, but we'll get back to that in a minute.
I can't tell.
This explains the music. A little.
I prefer death metal.
Fuck this
Well,
protagonist, bro.
I prefer death metal.
Fuck this nigga. Another new enemy. Here we go. The Zombride starts off as something of a mini-boss, but later shows up as a regular enemy. Mechanically speaking, it's a world of difference compared to the last two, which were just kind of beefier zombies without much else to stand out. Zombride is unique in the sense that it's one of the first enemies to properly introduce Yaiba's elemental mechanics, illustrated beautifully by this dogshit chart made by an 8-year-old. Certain enemies are elementally enhanced, and can proc different effects on Yaiba if they land enough hits, typically dealing sustained damage or hindering Yaiba's ability somehow, like disabling his cyber arm. Working around this requires you to utilize the flail, and it's a clever system that makes this a somewhat enjoyable fight. I'm still upset that this game has no jump button. I spent like 5 seconds trying to air combo this bitch until I remembered all Yaiba can do is slide cancel around the arena. Overall, decent encounter, cool new enemy, and an overpowered new weapon. I will cautiously maintain the disposition that this game is hot garbage, but I also can't help but like the direction things are going in.
We're close to the lingerie shop, but still no come from the listening team. They barricade themselves in where the infection hit?
Here's a question for you. Where is Hayabusa? And why isn't my foot up his ass yet?
Calm down, Tiger. They'll know where he is.
They better.
So I suppose now is a good time to really lay out the context for the story so far, since I've been purposefully skipping over it since this game is paced like a fever dream. So we know so far that Yaiba and Ryo are rivals, but as for why they even ended up fighting to begin with, Yaiba hails from the Kamikaze clan of the Kitsune lineage, wherein a lot of the actual fluff and details come from the 3-issue mini-comic series published by Dark Horse leading up to the game's release. Yaiba's entire backstory and a good chunk of important characterization are just kinda dumped off here and never explicitly mentioned in game. We see him training with a fellow member of his clan, Yuki, who's also revealed to be his sister. Yaiba ends up accidentally mortally wounding her in a fit of rage after getting jebaited by her Nimpo trickery, and pleads with their father and clan elder to mend her injuries with Nimpo magic, only to be met with stubborn refusal because of my dishonor and how it's not the way of the ninja. Yaiba seeks the healing Nimpo anyways, but upon returning with the scroll, he's too late. Yuki was ritualistically decapitated by the village elders in order to preserve her honor. In retaliation, Yaiba slaughters all three like the edgy bastard he is, but in an ironic twist, brings them back from the brink of death with the very Nimpo he planned to use on Yuki, effectively beating the elders at their own game and punishing them with the very ideals they preached, ending with Yaiba exiling himself from the clan. It's some solid-ass characterization for the guy, and it's a genuinely humanizing moment for a character who just kinda feels like an edgelord self-insert in the actual game he's starring in. Yaiba's disdain for the run-of-the-mill honorable ninja really started here, but his actual run-in with Ryu is linked to the fact that not only had he been slaughtering members of the Hayabusa clan due to his violent tendencies and lifestyle upon exiling his own, going around to various other clans and syndicates as essentially a mercenary, but also because his signature weapon, the Tempest Blade, is a historical artifact from the Muromachi period and is a sacred relic as much as it is a deadly armament. If you know anything about the dragon lineage, they love holding on to dangerous antiques and safeguarding them to very, very limited success. So, of course, like the Dark Dragon Blade and the Demon Statue, Ryu Hayabusa politely yet firmly requested Yaiba Kamikaze surrender the katana. Given Hayabusa represents everything this guy hates ever, it's no surprise his first instinct was just to run the fade. With all this context, and his eventual defeat by the hands of essentially the anathema of his ideals and worldly perspective, it's, honestly, fantastic foundation for Yaiba's entire characterization and the recipe for a perfect ninja rivalry as well. So I guess we're just gonna have to see where it goes from here on out. Huh. Alright. I see. So that's how it is. For the first time in literally 10 years, this is the first puzzle we've seen in a Ninja Gaiden game since Black. The entire game is actually littered with these small puzzle sections. This is just the first of many. Puzzles in action games are a controversial topic, because on one hand, if I wanted a challenging puzzle, I'd just go play fucking Bejeweled or Portal or some shit like that. Kinda in the title of the genre to have the experience be action-oriented, and a puzzle is maybe the farthest possible experience from that. On the other hand, pacing is quite important, and would you rather have a long-winded hallway full of nothing but the pitter-patter of your character's footsteps to fill that void, or a short but still somewhat engaging challenge to break up the action? Personally, some games do it better than others, and I think Yaiba's puzzle sections are bearable at worst. There's honestly bigger issues to complain about in this game.
Hopping from rooftop to rooftop, committing violence, screaming like a madman, reminds me of my salad days. What was in the salads?
You're gonna notice that 90% of this game's dialogue is forced humor quippy writing, but the strangest thing is that it's like 3 separate senses of humor depending on who is talking at a given moment. Something I'll discuss more when I talk about Delganzo and Miss Monday. Anyways, we're introduced to the fire element here. It's fire. Nothing special. Though it does gradually introduce the concept of certain passive enemies being in the arena, literally for utilization in combat. Something the player gradually gets more utilization out of as the game goes on, but for now, it's just kind of random zombies doing dumbass shit in the background. They're not really that useful though. Wrapping up Mission 2, we're finally at our destination.
The listening station is under there. Bad news is, it's on lockdown, and I have no external access.
And the good news?
Well, you like blowing shit up, right?
Man, Yaiba, I have always preferred women's underwears to men's. If cuddling your maracas is wrong, then I don't want to be right.
On top of introducing yet another new enemy, this panty rain scene was one of the few to make it into the pre-release trailers, and immediately set the tone for a lot of fans who were uncertain for what the fuck this game was even gonna be about. Some took it better than others, to say the least. The Holy Roaster, this big dude with the cleft lip, is one of the worst enemies in the game. If you held on to the Spinal Zap weapon from the Zombride, you can pretty reliably eviscerate this guy with little effort. Otherwise, have fun contending with this insufferable AoE while having fireballs shoved up your ass for 5 minutes. The last and most important aspect of Yaiba's gameplay is on display right here. You can mix and match different elemental effects against your enemies depending on if they're any of the 3 variations. Each element reacts differently with one another, and it's maybe the most original idea this game has to offer in terms of gameplay. We get the Rigor Mortar from these guys, a flaming cannonball launcher. Definitely a fun weapon, but not as cool as the Spinal Zap in my opinion. Some more puzzling, a few more new enemies, and we get to play around with the elemental system in full swing. Electricity and fire make these huge clusterfuck lightning storms that deal quite a bit of damage. Side note, but I am a big fan of this system. Can't help but be reminded of Arrowhead's Magicka when I play around with this shit. Honestly, that game did this kind of better, but that's to be expected when it's the whole gimmick. Guess it's sort of a shallow comparison. Almost like saying Helldivers invented directional inputs or Dark Souls invented hard difficulty, which of course is factually correct information because we are never wrong on this channel.
This is a brain alert ass game, and it's what is going on.
Yeah, you like that shit?
Is this? Are you actually making this the next video?
Yeah, I have to.
Fuck.
Through the door is the final boss of Mission 2.
Oh, this little gem is a robotic defense unit. We used a dog cerebellum for its neural network. As you can see, it's pretty
Yeah, I'm noticing a pattern.
Alright, I'm a sucker for giant robots, dude, and the giant robot dog gimmick fits the bill. It's not a very remarkable fight. If you, once again, come prepared with the stupidly overpowered Spinal Zap, then you can reliably melt this thing's health bar in a matter of seconds. It's hard to fuck up a mech boss fight, but the bosses in this game really aren't anything to write home about. They're just kind of mediocre and all really just play the same. Like, this shit's already over. Even with the bougie intro and drawn out death animation, I was just kind of like, we get the strongest enemy drop in the game from the dog though. Literally just a rocket launcher. Couldn't ask for anything more, honestly. Well, that's 2 missions down. We got 5 more to go.
What? What?
What the fuck even was that?
Got her family member. Yeah, look at him.
Don't say Gaha ever again. You'll remind me of the time I got raped.
What happened?
My friend Jose.
My friend.
What the fuck? Was playing banjo in Smash Brothers and he beat me 20 times over.
Okay.
I got a friend named Jose.
So far, this game isn't all too bad. If anything, it's kind of on the up and up, for me at least. I expected a lot worse. I guess now, since we're in the obligatory sewer level and I've covered my fair share of gameplay shit, I'll finally talk about the only other 2 characters that matter in this entire game, Del Gonzo and our codec call buddy Miss Monday. Both of these characters had a hand in bringing Yaiba back to life after jobbing to Ryu in the opening cutscene. Del Gonzo is the CEO of Forge Industries, which is basically Doatech minus the martial arts tournaments. I mean, every big company in this setting is identical. They've got money, power, and do irresponsible shit with both. He found Yaiba after his encounter with Ryu, while Monday over here did the legwork on the cybernetics and actual resurrection of our protagonist. Though Gonzo's motives aren't made exactly clear, just briefly mentioning that he simply put them back together to kill Ryu Hayabusa. But he's been seemingly tracking this entire zombie outbreak since it started through his network of many, many connections, the remains of which we've been following for the past 2 missions to track down the Dragon Ninja, who's also here to stop said outbreak. He's an alright character. He's kind of what I mean by all of the dialogue seeming like it was written by 3 different people with 3 distinct senses of humor. His lines lean too much into absurdist rambling, but without any kind of punchline aside from, look at how random and zany this guy is. The best comparison I can make is that his dialogue reminds me of Master Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, a show that quite literally made me retarded.
Tonight you will get your dick ripped off. That doesn't sound right, does it?
Not a moment goes by where Shake isn't spouting some insane fucking bullshit, but it's usually relevant to the current situation the three main characters, or four if Carl, through some unfortunate circumstances got roped in, have to contend with. Typically it's something that sounds off the wall at first, but has an actual punchline, or some kind of significance at some point that makes it genuinely funny.
I'm talking to him.
He's George Washington.
I am. What the hell's he doing next to my Benjamin?
There's other examples you can point to, like Xavier Renegade Angel, but that show's writing is on an absurdist level Yaiba could only so much as dream of fucking imitating.
I can't go to heaven, cause I'm gay.
I'll smuggle you to heaven via the underground mail road.
Del Gonzo feels like he was written with this sense of humor somewhat in mind, but it doesn't really land, like ever. It feels like they're trying a bit too hard, and even if that's the point, it doesn't excuse the fact that this guy isn't all that funny. This whole mission is where the game's deeply unserious tone starts to become just a little bit grating.
Aw, dude, this is really funny.
No.
I laugh.
No, it's gonna start it. Go, 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 go. Yes! Fucking dude. Dude, oh. DSP would be cacinating right now. Fucking Code Monkey's ass comedy.
We're introduced to yet another tired and true zombie archetype, the spitter type enemy. It spits acid. The acid hurts. Sometimes it fucks up your vision if the devs feel like adding that extra cherry on top. Not much to say about this enemy. You've probably seen it or faced it before in literally any other zombie game. The hagpipes are a great weapon on the other hand. An acid sprayer weapon is a trope I will eat the fuck up until I die. It puts in the work here, decent damage on top of disorienting enemies, along with some useful elemental reactions as well. I can give the enemy weapons the ultimate praise for being the only method we have of ranged combat in this entire game. No shurikens or bows here, and I'm not complaining either. I take a rocket launcher over Ryu's anti-tank arrows any day. This entire section where we cross this huge valley in the sewer would have been so much better if the game didn't feel the need to provide a cutscene to show where we need to go next after we get to each platform. The last thing this game needs is shittier pacing. We were on a good streak, damn it. So I guess it's about time we talked about the elephant in the room. Miss Monday, our titty satcom partner we've been stuck with since the literal first minutes of the game. So I already expressed my grievances with the whole codec call buddy shit when I had to deal with it in Razor's Edge. For that game, it was pretty annoying, especially when they switched out Mizuki for this honky jive turkey fuck Cliff in that one mission in the Antarctic. Annoying ass motherfucker that I hate. Worst character, and also worst boss in the series. Mizuki was slightly more tolerable, but it wasn't by much. Here in Yaiba, Miss Monday serves the exact same purpose, but it fits the circumstances far better. Yaiba Kamikaze is basically just a dog on a leash in all of this, and Monday is just here to keep him on track. Personally, I don't know what I wouldn't give to be Miss Monday's personal dog on a leash. Quite literally. This bitch could tell me to bark for her and she wouldn't even have to ask twice. I'd be on my knees, howling, like a fucking wolf pack during a full moon. In a heartbeat. People give this game a lot of shit, but Miss Monday is easily one of the baddest bitches in this entire series. And that's really saying something considering this franchise's track record with the infamous exotic waifu trio, and Kasumi, I guess, since she was in Razor's Edge. Listen, I was trying my best to just keep it strictly Ninja Gaiden. Lumping in DOA would be cheating. Come on now. It's definitely the glasses and her massive personality that I find most appealing for sure. But I think the biggest distinction is the fact that she's not really a fighter like every other female character in the series. She's a pencil-pushing lab coat who's really just trying to do her job, which is admirable. The star tattoo and tasteful tie between the titties got me frothing like a rabid squirrel. Whoever added those details is a whole-ass demon and should continue designing characters in this industry and be paid well to do so. He knows what he's doing and I approve wholeheartedly. She also has one of the more bearable vocal performances in this game. Monday's voice doesn't do the weird peaking thing that Yaiba's does, which even now I'm not entirely sure is intentional or not. Del Gonzo sounds fine too, I guess. Nonetheless, we get some more story intrigue. Turns out it's not just Ryu who's out here cleaning this up. but also Shrine Maiden Momiji. All this does is make me wonder why we never just got our co-op Ninja Gaiden adventure with like Momiji or Hayate or something. Seems like it was an idea in the works for Ninja Gaiden 3, as evidenced by not just that one section where we literally fight alongside Momiji in the Hayabusa village, but also this interview with Yosuke Hayashi during Yaiba's development. But I'm afraid it never saw the light of day. We're introduced to yet another chemical reaction for this part of the game. The toxic shit crystallizes when coming into contact with electricity. One of the more unique and creative interactions to come out of this whole system. It's seriously kinda cool you can utilize this just to briefly remove enemies from the equation and keep them in this whack-ass crystal prison, or just straight up obliterate them with the cyber arm. Leaves the player with a small handful of options to play with during combat, and I'm here for it. Good call, Spark. More platforming later. The rest of the level is almost straight up puzzles, with a whole dedicated segment with an added timer to really put the pressure on. It counts up, by the way, so really the only thing at stake here is your pride and confidence in whatever problem-solving skills you went into this game with. Yaiba might not always succeed at making you feel like an unstoppable ninja killing machine, but it for sure succeeded in making me feel like I was dragging my goddamn feet like a fat retard for this whole section. How the fuck was I supposed to know that this would happen? I can't really complain though. That's a nice break from the action. Better than platforming, that's for sure. Or Dice Room. Remember the Dice Room from DMC4? Yeah, that shit was my 9/11, bro. Never again. Well, final area for Mission 3. I've been having a surprising amount of fun with this game so far. I took the liberty of allocating a few more skill points at the start of the mission, namely some combo extenders and, most importantly, the Rocket Fist. You put a Rocket Fist in a video game, I can immediately forgive most, if not all of its issues. This shit never gets old. It's super satisfying to pull off and requires you to, no joke, edge Yaiba's cyber arm before it busts all over him, causing minor damage to his health. All that remains now is setting this place to blow up. Ryu's in the vicinity, and in an effort to slow him down, we're gonna have to disturb the peace. Can't help but kinda like the whole utilizing our environment to progress here. Said it before, but it's really neat. Didn't expect something so creative from a game so many people think is objectively shit. Going in expecting nothing really does wonders for a game, that's for sure. That's wraps for Mission 3, on to Mission 4.
Find Hayabusa.
Find him.
This is the last level of the game, dude.
When you overheated the
God, I
furnace,
wish. Bad news, guys. Mission 4 is where any and all initial enthusiasm I had about Yaiba begins to fizzle out. This is the worst mission in the game, simply because the entire level's code is held together with Elmer's glue and staples. Looks can certainly be deceiving. The mission starts off innocently enough, but I can say with absolute firm fucking certainty that this is the buggiest mess of a level I've played in a long time. To give you some idea, how I typically script a given section of my video is that I'll play through a mission, think about what I want to talk about, then jot down my thoughts once it's over. I had a whole diatribe planned out for this mission. You wanna know what happened to it? I fucking forgot. Because the game decided to wipe my progress mid-mission, and I just stopped working on this video for like a week. With that being said, I'm probably just gonna ad-lib half of this shit, cause I cannot for the life of me believe they shipped this game out with this big of a fuck-up game-ruining glitch. I digress. This mission is where the difficulty really starts to ramp up. We've been introduced to basically the entire roster of enemies for the foreseeable future, so the devs start to get real experimental with these encounters. The special infected are usually the priority, but the regular chaff guys put on enough pressure to the point where, if you're not actually using everything at Yaiba's disposal, then you're gonna start having a lot more trouble here than with the earlier chapters.
Yeah, this looks good as fuck.
On the bright side, you'll be seeing elemental type enemies in these arenas much more often, giving the player a good reason to even pay attention to this mechanic outside of, like, the arbitrary puzzle sections. From here on out, there's not going to be much of anything new in the way of enemies / mechanics and whatnot, just pushing what we have now to their extremes, so combat is literally just going to be more of the same. Good thing I have no shortage of shit to talk about. For instance, this game's central concept being a zombie game. I'm about to air this bitch out. I attribute this factor to much of this game's limitation in terms of what it could have potentially been. Being a zombie game kind of gridlocks you into this specific niche that doesn't allow for much experimentation, lest you compromise on the main appeal of mowing down hordes of the undead. Regular games can have zombie modes, but a zombie game can't have, like a normal mode to offer some kind of break from what's arguably the most repetitive genre of any form of media down to the premise. What I'm getting at is that for anything cool or unique this game does, I've probably seen it done elsewhere, especially at this point in the zombie fad of the mid-2010s. Just imagining this game with regular ninja or demon type enemies usually associated with this series paints a far more impressive picture than the game I'm literally fucking playing. Anyways, we get another Hayabusa hologram giving us literal breadcrumb.
And giving us literal breadcrumb.
We found that premise, man. What? It's right here.
We get another Hayabusa hologram giving us literal breadcrumbs of Ryu's inclusion in this game's plot relevance whatsoever. Apparently he's planning on nuking this entire facility via Nimpo magic with Momiji's aid. Looks like we barely slowed him down with the last mission, so I guess we're still in hot pursuit. Even the parkour sections are beginning to become obnoxious with these new Super Mario Bing Bing Wahoo ass obstacles littering every pipe and surface imaginable. Still very glad it's not an insta-kill on failure, otherwise I'd actually start ripping my own skin off. Hopefully the rest of the level is at least somewhat tolerable.
Nigga, yes. What is happening in this game? I can't attack! I can't. All I can do is run. They're not attacking me.
This should have been a sign. This really should have told me what I was getting myself into. Keep in mind, this was after my save wiped itself and I had to redo the entire level. I should have ran when I had the chance, but no, I was in too deep already. This was just one of many problems I had with this specific mission. If only I could articulate or even show you half of the pain I endured just getting this footage alone, you would agree with my sentiment that this game might just be as bad as most people say. It was pretty good up until now. Hell, this encounter, when it's working, is actually not even that bad. But these bugs are starting to become inexcusable. This current footage is my 4th run through, and I was about ready to just awaken my archaic cheat engine EXE I haven't touched since middle school, just to give myself infinite health, or some kind of edge just to ease the pain. It's not like it's a cakewalk either. Sure, combat is simple enough, but doing these encounters repeatedly for 4 times, then these environmental obstacles 4 times, then this parkour shit 4 times, was starting to take its toll. More worthless story fluff that doesn't matter, more environmental pieces that I hate, more dialogue that I hate, more parkour, last fight of the level. Awesome. This fight is the source of all my problems. This is where everything went wrong. This is maybe the hardest fight in the game. The combination and just the numbers of special zombies thrown at you here are just exhausting after like the 2nd wave. It exposes a few issues I have with this game's combat that weren't entirely obvious in fights prior. 1. The parry fucking sucks. Call it a skill issue, call me a casual, a grifter, literally Hitler, whatever ad hominem you want, this parry is dog shit, bro. When it actually lands, hallelujah. Magnifique. Smooth like butter. Immaculate. But this thing just doesn't ever fucking land, and it just kind of sucks when you could just dodge out the way and Hulk smash a zombie to the concrete with Yaiba's synthetic baboon arm. 2. These fucking church zombies are so unfun to deal with. They're not a deliberate dance like the Zombrides or a tango like the clowns. These things just spit fire and go bug mode on your cock if you want to get close and deal any damage whatsoever. Fuck these things and whoever designed them. They're unintuitive garbage mobs that should be an example of shit to avoid when designing enemies. I get you're supposed to use the elemental gimmick horseshit here, but I'm really not trying to play Tard Wrangler and get all of these enemies in one very convenient single file line like we're leaving the classroom to go to recess. Your best bet is just to prioritize one special zombie and play off the interactions accordingly. Good fucking luck with 2 enemies constantly spraying you with either fire or acid, or if you're really lucky, a combination of both. It's just a hard matchup, dude, and leaves you with very little health for the next wave, which is even more church zombies, so I literally just threw in the towel and called it quits for the night when I first did this. Notice, when I first did this, because I didn't just do this once, or twice, or 3 times, now did I? Reason being is because I guess the devs were bored and decided to make the game wipe your entire save when saving and exiting. I literally had nothing when I continued my run, and had no choice but to basically say fuck it and download a 100% save file off of some ancient crypt keeper ass forum and just keep rolling that boulder up the hill, Sisyphus style, with a second run through the mission. Can't really forgive a fuck up like this, and it's gonna affect my overall thoughts for sure, but for now, I managed to trudge through this massive pile of horrible dog shit, and thankfully it's basically the last fight of the mission. Save for the boss fight, where we fight this fucking thing. Cool, let's get it over with. This was the cause for my 4th and final attempt, because midway through this boss fight, my headset died, and for no reason at all, maybe a particle from the sun beamed down and Trump Tower Cybertrucked my entire CPU, basically blue screened my PC, corrupting a decent chunk of my footage and making me wonder whether or not making this video was 100% worth it anymore, because this entire experience was rapidly bordering on torture with each passing minute. This was some catastrophic fuckery, and at the end of it all is this boss fight. This terrible boss fight. That's literally a huge evil baby. Almost like Spark is mocking me. They gave this thing 3 phases. You can melt the first one with a sword or cyber arm combo. Second phase is just the homunculus baby thing spraying you with acid while you wail on trash mobs for about 2 minutes straight, with a really, really good camera angle as a bonus.
I like the ant you're controlling on your screen.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
You can actually get all 3 elemental effects to converge here, and it makes its own special 4th effect. I can't show you though, because my computer took a shit when my headphones died and murdered my footage, so just take my word for it, dude. Trust me, bro. 3rd phase is more baby raid, so just hit it. Who cares anymore? Killing it nets Yaiba yet another special weapon. A bone. A big bone. From a baby. We gave you a big baby bone. I'm about done talking about this mission. On the bright side, the next brings us to the long-awaited duel between our 2 ninja rivals. Basically the only thing me and 100% of Ninja Gaiden fans bought this game for. With how things are looking so far, this really has to deliver. My enjoyment of this game hinges on this. Mission 5, we're gonna see if this rivalry lives up to the hype.
That's Forge Industries tech. Do you even know that Del Gonzo started this disaster?
What can I say? Guilty as charged. When I realized Mr. Hayabusa was going to storm my listening station, I had to move on my plans. Shut the fuck up, both of you! I'm gonna carve your skull into a fucking hat.
This fight will end no differently than the last kamikaze.
The game wastes no time getting Yaiba stuck in with our boy in black, and all of that hype, all of that marketing, all culminates in a fight that spans a few QuickTime events. Alright, why do I expect anything anymore? The long-awaited Ryu Hayabusa duel. Here it is. Are we having fun yet? I took off all my clothes and got oiled up for this? The first phase basically consists of throwing select enemies at Ryu to stun him, open his ass, and blow up his prostate. He teleports off, repeat. Not a great start. I guess the QTEs are nice. You really feel like you're struggling against the Dragon Ninja. Just like Ninja Gaiden 3 Steel on Bone really made you feel like a fucking idiot for buying such an awful game. Why isn't Ryu in our face comboing us to death right now? Why is he fighting like such a bitch? Why are we holding hands? Why is Yaiba making out with Ryu? Why are we both naked? Oh shit, nigga. My bad. I loaded up Yaoi Ninja Gaiden XXX by accident. Yeah, we gay, bro. Keep scrolling. Hope you guys had your expectations as low as I did, because that's it. That's the whole fight. You know, we were promised like a rivalry, but so far this hardly passes as a minor dispute. This is the Ninja Gaiden equivalent of Yaiba tossing scrunched up balls of paper at Ryu from across a classroom. What even is this shit, dude? Apparently this hurts and does damage, and we clear the fight with flying colors. But it seems like there's more to this level than the devs were leading on. We get a genuinely cool fight scene here that really would have been better if we actually got to play it instead of watching it unfold from the comfort of my fucking cuck chair. I can forgive all of this only due to the fact that this game gives us the quintessential greatest Azuna drop in the entire series. To be 100% real here, this is pretty goated. Like the intro cutscene, it's honestly the most cutscene love Ryu's gotten in years. What I mean by that is, compared to other action game protags who really get to show off their exaggerated swagger in the cutscene material, like Bayonetta or Dante for example, Ryu never really had any of that apart from a few select moments. I feel like we could have gotten much more of this angle of Ryu if Itagaki continued to direct this series. And for everything this game might do wrong as a Ninja Gaiden title, our boy in black is represented with quite a bit of dignity here, especially in phase 2 of this boss fight where we actually get to fight him in head-to-head combat. Maybe it's just because Ryu's the first non-zombie humanoid enemy we faced in this game, or just because Spark was on goated status while developing this fight, but this is maybe the best mission in the entire game, as it's solely focused on the fight between these two. Our boy is no fucking slouch here. And it's honestly a treat, as a longtime Ninja Gaiden fan, to be given the honor of seeing what it's like to be on the other end of the Dragon Sword for once. Doppelganger fights need not apply. Ryu's entire moveset from the past 3 games is here and entirely intact. I don't think they missed a beat when making his moveset here, because it combines combos, ult techniques, and Nimpo that we've used and abused forever. And more often than not, I'd see something I recognize, be like, hey, I know that move, and react accordingly.
Fucking rape.
The legacy skill of knowing Ryu's entire arsenal but having to retaliate against it with Yaiba's abilities is maybe the absolute best part of this game. I fuck with the overall vision. I finally fucking get it. Only took us half the entire game to get here, but Spark definitely delivered on the promise of a badass duel between these two. In terms of narrative weight and the quality of the rivalry we're engaging with here, it's not that great. It's better than whatever the fuck dickweed was supposed to be in Ninja Gaiden 3, and I will die on the hill of that guy being a lukewarm at best antagonist slash rival character. But Yaiba and Ryu's rivalry is decent. Pretty good even. It makes sense, given the characterization of these two and the duality they represent. Ryu representing order, Yaiba representing chaos, them both having overlapping and contradicting ideas of honor and justice, and if anything, this game makes a better argument for these ideas than Ninja Gaiden 3 ever did. No, I will not stop shitting on this video game even an entire video later. Yaiba does make a good point on Ryu's ironic sense of honor when for the past 2 games, he's done nothing but work on the behalf of government organizations, like the CIA and Ninja Gaiden 2, which was specifically for a crumb of Snow Bunny Coochie. Granted, these were kind of world-ending events that would have resulted in essentially mass human extinction, but still, that more or less affirms Yaiba's perspective that honor is meaningless and is more so used to justify one's actions as a means to an end. However flawed this perspective may be in the grand scheme of this series, the guy still owns it and he will die by it. This fight makes me realize Yaiba really isn't all that bad of a protagonist. Sure, his writing and dialogue sounds like it was ripped straight out of a VivziePop production, but in terms of being a foil to Ryu, I'd say he's tied with Ninja Gaiden 2's Genshin as my personal favorite. Yaiba stands out enough with his distinct moveset and general design to where every aspect of his being clashes with Ryu's, and their subsequent interactions within this mission are honestly really entertaining as a longtime fan of the series. This game definitely isn't perfect, a lot of flaws, but Mission 5 is a smattering, a tiny shimmering glimmer of what this game could have been under better care. There's glimpses of something great lying underneath all of this gutter trash of bugs and horrible decisions, but it's not quite fully realized. Anyways, in short, this fight is goated. Ryu hits like a truck, and we have Momiji in the background using her Shrine Maiden heel slap magic, which you can cancel by throwing a huge bug at her head full speed. She'll oftentimes chop up the fight by nuking the entire arena and transitioning the battle to another arena, separated by parkour segments, which is a nice dynamic touch. Yaiba's mechanics tie in nicely with this fight, with Ryu's Nimpo often triggering elemental effects like Art of the Inazuma disabling our Cyber Arm, and these grubs in the arena being used as offensive tools, blinding Ryu and creating an opening. Overall, the best method for this fight is literally just parrying. As much as I was shitting all over this mechanic earlier, it's quite effective here. Maybe because Ryu's attacks are more telegraphed, or I just might have been really fucking bad when I was typing that chapter and I was making up problems in my head. You can also just infinitely stunlock Ryu if you can carry him to the edge of the arena and spam XXY over and over again. Overall, goated fight made the last few hours of incomprehensible nonsense actually worth it. Because we're fighting Ryu Hayabusa, we realistically never stood a chance to begin with. So naturally, we lose immediately after beating him, and our boy launches his classic Dragon Nimpo as the grand coup de grace, to which we just... We punch it. We punch it really hard. The fight ends with the ground collapsing, and Momiji's on the ropes, to which our boy goes in to save her, now utterly vulnerable, with Yaiba having a prime opportunity to kill the guy he's been obsessed with for the entire game. He doesn't, despite Delganzo's protesting, because Yaiba's not a villain, he's a monster. He wants to see Ryu struggle and fail to rescue Momiji to really savor his despair, so he simply just sits back and watches the show. Lest his efforts be in vain, Ryu whips out this notebook that Delganzo was after with a bunch of data relating to the zombie outbreak, and passes it to our protagonist. To which Yaiba immediately discards because he's bored and has about as much investment in this narrative as the player does. Delganzo vehemently disapproves, setting off Yaiba's self-destruct bomb in his heart. Yaiba then proceeds to tear his heart out of his chest, and inadvertently ends up saving both Ryu and Momiji in the process, essentially failing spectacularly to accomplish literally anything since the game started. And that's the end of Mission 5. We got 2 missions left in this game, and so far this one was an improvement. I can only hope things finish strong.
I figured I'd finally get some rest. I wasn't that lucky.
Well, it can work with anything you want.
I'm trying to, think of how that works. Nigga, what the fuck is this?
Basically...
This is my old save data, nigga. This game sucks.
Alrighty. Mission 6. This is the second to last mission in the game, and by far the longest, since Mission 7 is entirely the final boss. Yaiba somehow ended up surviving the events of the last mission, and awakes in a strange facility, with a refrigerator battery strapped to his chest. The game introduces this overloading mechanic due to Yaiba's current condition, which is admittedly kind of neat. You're gonna have to deal with this status effect for the rest of the mission, discharging at these stations before it procs. But aside from that, it's business as usual. I kind of didn't realize there was already this little game left to talk about, so we're going to take a short break from gameplay talk to actually look at this game's environmental storytelling. Past Ninja Gaiden games would oftentimes have journals or notes left by characters, or just random jobber ninja who conveniently had enough time to whip out their diary and start writing before they bled to death on the ground, or died of giardia or horrors beyond human comprehension. This game keeps with the old journal entry tidbits, and there's something else. The actual logs are separated into a handful of different categories, but we'll just be focusing on the story compendium and its respective subcategories. There's the entries focused on Yaiba from the perspective of one Jackie V, who we never see in game to my knowledge. These are decent nuggets of characterization for Yaiba from the perspective of an outsider. Most of this is honestly meaningless outside of the final entry, where we learn that this guy is the reason Yaiba and Ryu fought? Apparently, out of spite of our crazed protagonist, this Jackie guy arranged a meeting between the two ninja by tipping off Hayabusa that this dude is running around with an ancient blade, thus staying consistent with the original impetus for their initial duel. He figures it's a win-win since both ninja are essentially gaining something from this battle, but sincerely hopes Yaiba meets his end in the process. Buddy, I have some horrible news. We also have logs from Del Gonzo's listening team, which is mostly uninteresting fluff. Addressing the black latex-clad elephant in the room, we have the Hayabusas. Logs supposedly written by the Dragon Ninja himself, detailing his daily thoughts and feelings almost like a diary. The thoughts and feelings in question include, but are not limited to, pissing his pants after thinking about Yaiba, wishing Momiji would change his pants and sing him lullabies, making PB&J sandwiches with Momiji, admitting his feelings for Momiji, writing a poem about his arbor for Momiji. Momiji, when I see you, it's Gigi. My sweat needs a squeegee. Let's run away to Fiji, and maybe you can touch my wee-wee. Shitting his pants when thinking about Yaiba, just wishing he could save the world, just wanting to help people, just wanting to hug soft animals. Momiji's thighs, wondering where his binky is, threatening to curl up into a ball due to binky withdrawal, admitting Momiji's dead sister Kureya was a badder bitch this whole time, admitting his feelings for Kureya, despite her dying like 3 years ago, wishing he was more like Yaiba. You know, normal Ryu stuff. Funnily enough, as the average Ninja Gaiden fan, I actually relate to almost all of this. You think I wouldn't want to lay my weary head on Momiji's big naturals? She's definitely one of the more comely women to come out of this franchise. Even extending to DOA, she stands out for sure. Now, Momiji is cool, she's fine as hell, but unlike other guys on this platform, I don't think she's all that, though Momiji would easily clear most of the DOA roster and make her way up to a comfortable A tier in my personal tier list. Now my girl Ayane, who I've thoroughly expressed as my absolute favorite DOA girl of all time, clears with zero differential. She's got an edgy backstory, she's an underdog, her lavender hair and blood red eyes are both iconic and captivating, and generally Ayane's designs across the DOA games have always been peak, especially her DOA 3 outfit, which I think is tragically underrated. Ayane takes shit from nobody, gets shit done, and is prettier than blood on snow. Dare I say, my ideal woman. S tier. Mogs the shit out of her boring loser sister. Next is Christy, who's pretty cool but just kind of falls into generic cold-hearted assassin lady archetype territory. Which, yeah, is cool and all, but she's always reminded me of Nina Williams from Tekken, who's slightly cooler. Though Christy is hotter. Overall, the only time I've seen the unfeeling female assassin trope done the best was with Roberta from Black Lagoon. Watching this shit at 16 years old did irreparable damage to my taste in women, and I think it shows with this entire tier list. I've always been a firm believer in the classic opinion of, I love a woman who will honestly just fucking kill me. And this series has only made this resolve unshakable. Revy could spill an extra large bowl of scalding, hot, cheesy French onion soup in my lap, and I'd be the one cleaning up and apologizing. On some yes ma'am type shit. Honestly, this has me wondering why we haven't seen Black Lagoon characters like Roberta or even Revy in more crossover shit in video games. Roberta for sure could work in some kind of anime fighter given the insane bullshit she does in her own series. Balalaika would, I mean, make a cool Overwatch skin maybe. Revy too. But, you know, I guess Fortnite is always looking for more crossover skins. Long story short, here's the whole tier list. Take a picture or pause if you want to analyze it. We gotta get back to the subject at hand. Got a little off topic. We've got more lore sections spanning back to Soviet rule, as well as the Naked City section, which as far as I can tell are just random anecdotes from local city dwellers spouting insane horseshit. The fourth one, which I could easily mistake for the average Twitter post in the year 2025, reads the life and times of a refinery worker at a brothel following his shift, quite excited to claim a strange piece of ass with a working week's worth of wages. Specifically, he requested this whore to beat him up severely, had him begging on his knees and everything. Then she bit him, and he strangled her to death, full mast. Now his groin hurts. He thinks he has a disease. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Who wrote this? R. Hoek. Ren Hoek. Ren fucking Hoek. The folks working on this game being Ren and Stimpy fans makes literally everything make sense. Last lore bits worth talking about is the actual codex, with entries mostly documented by Miss Monday. It's maybe the least scathing and most coherent lore you can get around to reading in this entire game. Nice bit of characterization for Monday too. They do well to translate her personality to words here. Finally, we have a nice palate cleanser in the Ryu log showing us all of our boy in black's greatest feats. Maybe the most respect this game will ever give its predecessors. Also, we can learn Delganzo wants to fuck the space grubs. Overall, dog, this chapter is as good as Yaiba gets. We've got basically this whole moveset on lock. Every enemy is in this chapter in some way, shape, or form. The puzzles are here, elemental gameplay mechanics in full swing, and it's the home stretch. I dedicate this video to Mori Calliope. This is the game at its most. And it's just lukewarm, man. I really don't have much more to say about this game at this point, let alone this series. So I'll take this and whatever's left of the game to begin wrapping up my thoughts on Ninja Gaiden as a whole, which I admittedly forgot to do for like the past 3 missions. These games have always had, at the very least, some kind of exciting build up to the finale. Reaching the core of the Imperial Palace and carving a bloody path through all 5 floors in Sigma/Black was a great way of raising the stakes, even if the triple boss fight into the semi-final boss, then into the actual final boss, but wait, here's the real final boss, was a bit much. Man, if it wasn't charming. It's a signature Team Ninja farewell and made for a memorable finale. Ninja Gaiden 2's finale was just a fever dream of tunnels and dark, fiery, atmospheric hellscapes, mutated and twisted enemies unlike what Ryu had faced prior, and another gauntlet of straight back-to-back boss fights as an ultimate test of the player's mettle. Though I had my gripes with the Archfiend, sure, it at least felt climactic, with a lot of gradual build-up in the final chapters. We literally jumped into a fucking volcano. The stakes were already through the roof. Razor's Edge runs into a similar issue here, where the game runs out of steam before the big finale, but even then, there was still some bombast and at least an attempt to make things feel like we were reaching a grand conclusion to the game, with the big bad raging through the city and Ryu 1 foot in the grave with the grip of murder. There were stakes, albeit weak. This just feels like another level. Nothing feels like it's escalating or that we're even obligated to do literally anything here. I fought Hayabusa, dog. I was good to just lay down and die. I don't give a fuck about stopping Delganzo, even if this fine-ass Snow Bunny promises to do backflips on my cybernetically unaltered Johnson. I'm resisting the mind control. You have no power over me, white devil. I fully expected Ryu just to be the final boss, or even possibly squash the beef and team up with Yaiba, but that's probably sky-high expectations for a post-Ninja Gaiden 3 Team Ninja. Ironic that with such a name, we see very little of it in the actual fucking Ninja Gaiden series. This continuation after the Ryu fight surprised me, and I started to just want things to wrap up because I lost all interest after Ryu ducked out of the story, and I don't think I'm alone in this sentiment. Alright guys, what am I gonna upgrade?
Can you upgrade to the end of the game?
Fuck, I want to. Big shocker, we all played this for Ryu. We don't really care about Yaiba or Monday or Delganzo, and certainly not fucking Beck from Mighty Number 9. This highlights a greater issue with video games and honestly media as a whole, and that's struggling to establish a new identity, experiment with the series norm, or even a continuation of a series without the appeal of the main character. It's why Gohan never took Goku's place in Dragon Ball Z. It's why people hated Boruto. It's why this didn't work for Devil May Cry, but this worked for DMC5, even with the initial backlash with Nero in DMC4. The guy is still here, we never replaced him or even sidelined him. This is the unfortunate truth for a lot of series, and you can definitely build upon your world and characters meaningfully with a new protagonist, but care must be taken in order, 1, for shit to make sense, and 2, to not cause your fans to go rabid and scream at God to kill you and burn your house down. Even in this case where Yaiba was just an experimental spin-off, maybe the biggest mistake was having Ryu in this game or even making it a Ninja Gaiden spin-off at all. Because at the end of the day, the Dragon Ninja and whatever association this product has with Ninja Gaiden is the only reason anyone played it. Now that this is no longer an active part of the game or even the story, what do we have left? A quirky zombie ninja game with decent mechanics. Which is fine, but the main draw is gone, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yaiba, when there's no Hayabusa around. Yaiba, when there's no Hayabusa around.
Yaiba's gotta get his heart back? If I, the player, were really in this situation, would I even want to? I'd be fine with just letting him die. Honestly, Ryu's way cooler, and Yaiba's a fucking loser for jobbing twice to my invincible, heroic, mythical paragon of justice. I'm content with letting his revenge remain incomplete because he, well, didn't kill Ryu when he clearly had the chance, and just let whatever happens happen. I'm sure Ryu's just gonna sort it out anyways. This would be wildly inconsequential in the scope of Ninja Gaiden's world, seeing as how he had it under control anyways and Yaiba just made things slightly harder. The concept of a cybernetic vengeful ninja slayer is so fucking sick, and these guys wasted it on a video game where the player kills 0 ninjas. Anyways, here's the final area. I don't know where we are and I don't really care anymore. This actually looks like the final level from Clive Barker's Jericho, which is a seriously underrated 2000 shooter that I've definitely got to cover on this channel sometime. That game had some seriously cool set pieces and overall is kind of goated.
Oh my god!
I guess the whole Mayan thing is cool, but we already did this like 2 games ago. A few fights later, we're already at the end of the level. I'm about ready to close this chapter of Ninja Gaiden in the series in its entirety. So let's see if the final boss can finish things off on a good note.
I had seen some crazy shit and some fucked up monsters, but inside the temple, crazy and fucked up had a baby, and not the babies I'd already fought. That's where I finally met Del Gonzo. Looked like he had seen better days.
Hello, Yaiba. Please, excuse the mess.
Well, let's wrap this up already. Our final boss for Yaiba is none other than Del Gonzo himself. The first phase, mind you, out of at least like 4 phases this boss has, is just wailing on this test tube. He's immersed himself in a giant vat of the zombie virus compound we've been dealing with for the entire game, and upon smashing it hard enough, we see why he's been after this stuff the whole time. Del Gonzo went ahead and basically reincarnated himself into a god, which is the 3rd time something like this has happened in this series, so it's just kind of whatever. This fight is okay. Literally the only problem I have with this fight is that it's entirely too fucking long, and the checkpoints are infuriatingly unforgiving. But aside from that, it's pretty by the book as far as final bosses go for this series. The Vigorian Emperor, the Archfiend, the Goddess, and now Del Gonzo all follow the unfailing and eternal BFB design philosophy that prizes spectacle over substance. This boss being largely dog shit is for once not a Yaiba issue and generally just a Ninja Gaiden issue. Since, outside of like Mirai, these games have never really had good final boss encounters. I'm willing to admit Del Gonzo at least looks cool, like the whole ascending to godhood and taking the form and abilities of the traces of an Aztec deity is legit the most original idea this game has ever had, and is properly too badass for its own good. This whole fight has a lot going for it, but I'm afraid it fumbles atrociously when it comes to the execution. 1. It's Del Gonzo, meaning you have to withstand this forced funny quota dialogue the entire time. 2. The length of this encounter is agonizingly paced. since Delganzo has to launch into a stand-up comedy bit every time he switches phases or even attacks. It takes up at least 5 whole seconds each time, which you'll quickly notice adds up throughout his entire boss fight, which leads to my last and ultimate gripe. Dying at any point during this fight resets you to the beginning. No checkpoints between phases, no way to heal outside of executions, no training wheels. Under normal circumstances, I'd applaud this brutal design philosophy and say, yeah, this is the Ninja Gaiden style of difficulty I expected. Or some other dumb shit like that, but it doesn't work here. Dying in this fight, especially near the middle or end, would put a pit in my stomach. Knowing I'd have to go through each of Delganzo's attacks again, retaliate accordingly, fend off each wave again, get an execution, use the according elemental gimmick, and repeat for another 15 minutes until I die or eventually break through. It's just something about sitting here between Delganzo's attacks, just sitting here and doing fucking nothing, that makes me just want to shut off my PC and start binge drinking, because holy shit, this makes me genuinely angry. I don't even mind the elemental gimmick here, it's a nice touch, but having to fight these obligatory goons in the arena to get them was something I could have also done without. I mean, yeah, whatever, at the end of the day I'm just ranting at this point. So what else is there to relevantly say about this fight other than this is the final death knell for this franchise?
Dude, what time? 4 a.m. Fucking Christ, dude!
This is the second time I gave up fighting a boss in Ninja Gaiden and just put down the controller for several days because of how unforgiving the checkpoints are. And if that's how we're closing out this game, I think it speaks for itself. Don't have much else to say about Delganzo. He's certainly a Ninja Gaiden coded final boss, but he doesn't offer much else. All it consists of is hitting him with elemental weapons until the game just abruptly ends. Delganzo dies, Miss Monday shows up somehow, and the two escape back to reality on a pterodactyl. We were in another dimension this whole time, by the way. And apparently the cure for the zombie plague was also ingrained in Yaiba's head. We close out on a close-up of Ryu, and that's it. That's the whole game. This entire final stretch of the game screams we ran out of money, and this final cutscene proves it. Where is the resolution? Where is the catharsis? What the fuck did we even do here? No special transition to the outro of this video, this is just gonna bridge right into it. Pretty anticlimactic, right? This whole saga, this entire retrospective series, all of it culminating in a PowerPoint slideshow with the same amount of effort as low-budget fanfiction. After finishing this game, all I can say is, what an inconsequential experience. What I find so satisfying about making these videos is that it gives me a new angle to appreciate my favorite games from, allowing me to engage with them from a new perspective, learning about the development, the inspiration, the people behind it. And even after all of that, on top of finishing the game twice, I can now definitively say, this game sucks. It's trash. It leaves me with such a puzzled, hollow feeling to finally reach this game and finish it. Coming off of Ninja Gaiden 3/Razor's Edge and seeing the lows established in that game somehow blow even further into the depths of crude mediocrity in Yaiba only left me with a sinking feeling. Like, this is it. This is the actual death of a franchise in full swing. It's an ugly thing, like a car crash in slow motion. And even seeing this whole game through willingly with the full expectations of being served a massive plate of wet shit, I was still left with immense dissatisfaction. So wordy bullshit aside, what went wrong here? Keiji Inafune, Spark, and Team Ninja all had their hearts in the right place. Ninja Gaiden as a franchise was in rough shape, and really needed a new spark to reignite the flames. But this was simply not the right way of doing it. From the zombie gimmick to Yaiba himself, to the characters and world we're forced to tolerate for the game's given runtime, this game, while admittedly charming at the start, really just loses 90% of its appeal after the Hayabusa fight. Honestly, there's not even that much game left afterwards. You could easily just turn it off right here and you're missing absolutely nothing of substance. This game's entire identity hinges on Ninja Gaiden, yet does everything in its power to disassociate from this, aside from Ryu's legally required screen time. Said it earlier, but this guy is why we're here. Without him, this game is just a quirky, cel-shaded zombie hack and slash with crude 2010s millennial humor. And quite honestly, there's nothing wrong with this. If you take this game on its own merits, removed of that of Ninja Gaiden, maybe fix the game breaking.
This is your fucking fight. This is the violent adventure. Where are my upgrades gone? I literally cannot play the game.
You don't have a game that I consider one of the worst games of all time. Nowhere close even. Maybe a lame, mediocre one, but those have always existed and will continue to exist as long as we collectively keep giving random hacks in this industry shovelfuls of money. So my question is, why wasn't it just another zombie game? Did this really have to have Ninja Gaiden attached to it? Because it's not something you can just ignore, and it drags the entire experience down as a result by a significant degree. This game having so much as a passing relation to Ninja Gaiden's insane pedigree created unreal expectations for players that wouldn't have been met even if they spent billions of dollars to have Momichi crawl through your screen and blow up your cock with her mind. It just wouldn't hit the mark, because the only thing that would is another Ryu-centric adventure. But here's the core issue basically everyone seems to ignore. Modern Team Ninja doesn't understand Ryu Hayabusa. Yosuke Hayashi doesn't understand Ryu Hayabusa. Neither did Keiji Inafune, neither did Spark Interactive. Hell, Modern Team Ninja hardly understood Ninja Gaiden, and if you don't believe me, go look at the Ninja Gaiden releases between 2014 and... Oh. Right then. Guess I was wrong. Imagine my goddamn shock when, in the course of making this video, not one, not two, but 3 mint fucking new Ninja Gaiden titles get announced. One of which shadow dropped, which also happened to be a new edition of Ninja Gaiden 2. By the time this video drops, this will all be old news, but regardless, I had a whole elaborate eulogy prepared for this series for this outro, saying how Team Ninja basically threw in the towel after Yaiba, and at least I assumed as much, decided to do away with the Ninja Gaiden series as a whole, never to be seen again, with their newer IPs being their current mainstays. Well, I've never been more happy to be completely wrong. First it was Ragebound that got revealed, which I saw and thought, okay, maybe they're just testing the waters and gauging interest. Then this fucking game dropped, on top of Ninja Gaiden 4 being officially revealed on January 23rd, 2025. Everything I was going to say originally in this outro, I take it back. So instead, we're gonna dedicate this outro to some brief thoughts on Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which will get its own video, as well as speculation for Ragebound and Ninja Gaiden 4, addressing concerns with the latter more than anything. So, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, Black 2, Ninja Gaiden 2 the Jequel, whatever you want to call it, turned out pretty well. Characters look good, graphics look beautiful, and the gore is phenomenal. Now you're probably wondering how well it holds up to its original counterpart, in which you're gonna have to wait on that one, buddy. This game is pretty demanding to run with pleasant looking graphics as well as record on my PC, so an upgrade is certainly due before I can give you guys my full thoughts on how it stacks up to the original. Now when it comes to the 2 newest mainline titles, starting with Ragebound, I'm reasonably excited for this one. The game looks amazing. A return to the classic 2D era with a new protagonist who's evidently something of an understudy of Ryu from his village is a solid premise that I am quite interested in seeing play out. Any kind of development in Ninja Gaiden's world building is a welcome addition in my book, and seeing how it's being developed by the Blasphemous devs, I'm willing to put money down that this one is in safe hands. Pretty hard to fuck something like this up. This one's getting a video for sure, when the time comes. Now the elephant in the room. Ninja Gaiden 4. I've got thoughts on this. Mainly concerning the fact that me and many others realize that this, despite being a mainline title, isn't being developed solely by Team Ninja, but in partnership with Platinum Games, with a new ninja character from a rival clan, with his own spin on gameplay, who's out for Ryu Hayabusa. Wait. Now, where have I heard this before? Though Yaiba may seem like a cautionary tale against something like this happening again, I don't think we have to give up hope just yet. From the gameplay shown, Yakumo, our new generation protagonist, seems to have that signature Platinum flair. Need I remind you all of Platinum's impressive pedigree of Bayonetta 1 through 3 and Nier Automata. Granted, the people who worked on all these projects are by now long gone from the company. My point still stands that Platinum, even in the dire straits it's in now, is still a massively more promising prospect than Spark was for Yaiba. Not only that, our boy Ryu is fully playable in this title, and doesn't seem to serve strictly as the main antagonist like he did with their last go around with this idea. I'm quite excited to see how Ryu's gonna play in this game. Seems like they're going less for Razor's Edge and more Ninja Gaiden 2 from what we've seen so far, and given the fact that Team Ninja seems to be covering more of Ryu's mechanics, and Platinum covering Yakumo's, I'm gonna hold out hope that we don't have a repeat of Ninja Gaiden 3. But hey, anything's possible. I'm chuffed that Team Ninja's even putting this much effort into the franchise in this day and age, and it's something I literally thought was never gonna happen. But here we are, again. Glad to be wrong. Of course, shouldn't even have to say this, but expect the Ninja Gaiden 4 video to be the final entry in this retrospective series. It's funny how I was planning on wrapping up this series into one huge mega video after Yaiba and posting it here on Brain Alert as a sort of love letter to the series, but seeing it now slowly rise back from the grave, it seems like I, myself, have much left to do. More Ninja Gaiden videos to come, but until then, thanks for watching.